welcome to another episode of it's like hard to remember sometimes what it is, but the show has been changed so many times. But you are listening, you're watching Pocket Vision Fantasy Football, where we go over all sorts of fantasy news, hit the hard stuff, go over the big news stories. And of course, we're gonna talk about the Dolphins. For some reason, I feel like we talk about the Dolphins every week, but I guess it's because of all the stuff they have going on and how much Tyreek Hill has been just destroying my fantasy team. But I think he's back. So it's phenomenal news for people like me. Hopefully, I can come back with my record. But we have a great show tonight. We're going to be hitting all the main stuff. We're going to be talking about just a lot of good stuff and some Vikings bets. Talk about the Thursday night game. Get your best bets and everything. Again, we've been out for a little while. I was in Europe for the old delayed honeymoon. So if you need any tips, I would say go to Bruges. And I think they got good chocolates. But without further ado, we bring you the Week 8 show.
How's this for criticism? You stink. How do you like that criticism?
Alrighty. And if you can't take a hint on who stinks, look no further than Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson is not him. The Colts franchise, I unfortunately think, will be torpedoed by this pick. He just isn't it. He looks horrible as a passer. It looks like he's shown no development at all, unfortunately. Before last week, he wasn't even using what he is good at, his legs. Against Miami, he did have 14 rush attempts, but finally coming back from an injury and missing basically almost 2 full games, what does he do against Miami? Lowers his shoulder on a run instead of just going out of bounds, instead of sliding. He's trying to get hurt again. This guy he doesn't get it. I don't understand. It's very frustrating. I understand most Colts fans are going to say it's a development season. We need to see more of him. He just needs to play. He hasn't played enough. I've seen enough. This Colts team is 4-3. I do think it's fool's gold, but they are clearly better on offense with Joe Flacco. And the AFC, this wildcard spots are up for grabs. I'm hungry for some playoff football, a playoff win maybe. I think Joe Flacco gives us that. Anthony Richardson needs to sit. And unfortunately, I just don't think it's it for him.
Yeah, I don't think Anthony Richardson is there right now, but I think Anthony Richardson still has time to evolve. I mean, if you look at Justin Fields' first couple of years, I mean, it was terrible. The passing was terrible. I didn't want any part of that. And then, he eventually came to a every week starter. He's always in the top 10 at that point. So Anthony Richardson is extremely raw. He's played very few games in college. So I think he still needs more time to evolve. I think they've told him, hey, run less so you can be healthy so you can get these reps. Because if you're running the ball, like what we want him to do as fantasy managers, run the ball. If he's doing that, he's going to take those hits. He's going to get injured. He needs to just get more game action. He needs to more learn. This is not the year the Colts are like, let's see how many games we can win. Because if they want to win games, they'll play with Joe Flacco. They're trying to let this guy evolve. Yes, Marcus, we could get a playoff win, but we're not winning the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco at this point. The only thing that would get us to the Super Bowl is if Anthony Richardson learns how to throw the ball. So he already knows how to run. Can he evolve as a passer and eventually come with some type of passing game? Because right now it's just not there. I do agree with you there.
So, Eric, if I understand it correctly, you are holding out hope that Anthony Richardson eventually turns into Justin Fields, who the Bears traded away for a 5th-round pick and now just got benched.
Well, you got to remember the situation. If they didn't have a 1st-round pick, they wouldn't have traded away Justin Fields. There was a very big controversy on, do we trade away Justin Fields or to keep Caleb Williams? So they were in a very weird situation with all their trades they have. Most teams aren't in that situation. But Justin Fields was a top 10 quarterback week after week after week with his rushing floor and ability to pass the ball. And I remember sitting on Justin Fields those first couple of years and thinking, I want to get rid of this guy. This guy is terrible. And that's kind of how we all feel about Anthony Richardson. But I think he's a buy in my book. If I can pick him up low in a dynasty league, now's the time I want to pick him up.
So, Eric, you are a Colts fan. You are used to quarterbacks getting drafted by your team and being good. Take it from a Washington Commanders fan who's seen my share of plenty of busts over the years. Anthony Richardson's a bust.
Time will
My
I got
tell.
it.
expert
Yeah.
A
bust
couple
is
more
Damian
years,
Richardson.
time will tell. But
So
I'm still holding out hope.
I'm not holding up hope. I drafted Anthony Richardson at the time, thought it was a steal. I took him in the 6th round of a league, and I was like, I talked to you, Eric. I said, rushing upside, I love it. We need this. This is this is gonna make my my season. But today was the day where I said, I'm dropping him, and I literally dropped him. And now your boy is starting Sam Darnold. Uh, I think
What a time to be alive.
I know. I said I said in the group chat today. I said I've only so Anthony Richardson is projected 16 fantasy points, whatever. This is the first time he's only beat his projections one time. I mean, of his whole season in the league I'm in, I think he's gotten less than 12. I think 5 games so far. So I just don't feel good about that. That's Anthony Richardson,
Yeah,
baby.
from a
No, go ahead,
fantasy
Marcus.
perspective, he might be able to. No, I say from a fantasy perspective, it's possible. He did run 14 times against Miami. That is encouraging for his fantasy upside, even though his passing was under 130 yards, no touchdowns. That is horrible. Miami is a good pass defense. Not going to lie there. From a real life standpoint, I do think that he's just not it. We've seen maybe Sam Darnold as the example of you just you write a guy off early and then he comes back and he's good in the right situation. I don't understand how this offense, the coach isn't putting Richardson and opportunities to succeed. They're just dropping back and hoping Richardson can get it done with his arm. Doesn't make sense to me because he can't do that. So I'm just, from a fantasy perspective, maybe. Not in redraft this year. Dynasty, like Eric said, there is upside if you can get a really nice cheap price. But in real life, he's not the franchise quarterback for the Colts.
All right, now let's see what else is. Let's do something more positive, guys. Let's do a little bit something more positive. Obviously, the hate on AR is real.
I
but
don't
let's
even
hit
like
it.
Drake.
You don't like the Drake?
I hate the Drake.
I love the Drake.
How could you not like the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
Who's the Drake?
The Drake is good.
The Drake is good. There's only 2 players ever to have 5 touchdowns and 500 passing yards in their first 2 games. One is Dan Marino, and the other is Drake May. And he's doing it in arguably one of the worst situations. I mean, 4 of his 5 linemen were on other teams and cut from the team. They were deemed practice squad players, and he's putting it together as his starting lineup. His wide receivers, the whole room is struggling. The rookie Jalen Polk and him have had 1 catch for 4 yards. His best option is Hunter Henry at tight end. It's just not looking good for that current situation. And somehow, he's able to score touchdowns. He's able to move the ball. He's able to play very well. I did not see this coming. And he's played at such a level with such a low amount of talent around him. I think New England has their quarterback. I think they should build aggressively around him. I think they should try to bring in a number 1 at receiver because Jalen Polk's not it. Maybe he can work out and be a number 2 or number 3, but they need to get some weapons around this guy because he's played very well in really bad situations. I mean, they're not winning these games, but they show signs of hope. You know, as we just talked about Anthony Richardson as Colts fan, we have had very little signs of hope. He showed lots of signs of hope in these last 2 games.
Yeah, and one thing that we haven't seen yet from Drake May as much as I thought we would is his ability to use his legs. So there's even more upside that we just haven't even seen yet. So definitely agree that it's an exciting time to be a Patriots fan in the future of that franchise with Drake May. And in a deeper league, I think Drake May is a great fantasy option as well.
Yeah, possibly even a super flex option in the right matchups. He's almost somebody that at this point you're more excited about than Patrick Mahomes, but we might get to that a little bit
I was
later.
about to ask if I should be starting Drake May over Patrick Mahomes.
In the right situation, yes. But against the Jags, like Eric said, they didn't win the game. But I think that was one of those games that just snowballed. I think they were up 10-0 early, and then Jacksonville just came back like teams kind of do, and the punt return kind of just killed it for him. He is a rookie. He'll still need some running game to help. He shouldn't be just dropping back 50 times. But the eye test is there. He's making the right decisions. He shows he has the right arm talent. It is a little bit exciting. It's been a few years with New England not having that good of an offense where there's young weapons to grow. and see what Drake May can become for the rest of the year, and go from there.
Well said, Marcus. Well freaking said.
Believe it or not, George isn't at home. Please leave a message at the beep. I must be out or I pick up the phone. Where could I be? Believe it or not, I'm not home.
That's right. George is back, baby, in a big way. 5 catches, 111 yards, and 1 touchdown against one of the better defensive backfields in the NFL, the New York Jets. Russell Wilson has made a difference. He's been inconsistent up until this point, but I think going forward with a competent quarterback is going to push him into that top 20 weekly wide receiver that I predicted him to be at the beginning of the season. Definitely just excited to see this connection working out.
Yeah, for sure. What I noticed instantly with Russ was the deep ball. I don't know what it is. Russ has just got that magical touch. He puts the difference between him and Fields. Fields doesn't put those to be catchable passes. That's what we saw. Russ just knows where to put it. Lets Pickens use his talent to go up and get it.
Yeah.
As you know, if you have Pickens, this is very exciting. You've gone from a guy that you probably pray as a wide receiver 3 that he just puts up some points to a guy you're excited to put in your lineup moving forward. The whole Steelers offense, I think, turned around just how they used Russ in the play action game, and things like that. I think there's definite promise there for sure with Pickens.
Yeah, just give Pickens a chance, and he'll make it happen.
I think it started a little scary. Russell Wilson came out maybe a little rusty. That first 20 minutes, there were some balls, hitting the ground that were, 15 yards, and we were like, uh-oh, I don't think this is going to work out. I think maybe Mike Tomlin made the switch maybe a little premature, but once he shook off some of that rust, the passing game got going, George Pickens got going, and that's definitely good for George Pickens owners in fantasy football.
We got the bobble here, guys. This is the one that Adams was like, what the hell? And it was a crazy catch.
Little bit of luck. Sometimes you need luck, as we know with fantasy football, but it's still good.
Look at Adams' face here.
And just, it's crazy. I mean, that is a low percentage play. It shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't happen, but it's one of those deals where I like that Russell Wilson is giving him that opportunity to come up with a play.
For sure.
That's not going to be complete most of the time. And I think we're going to see a better Pickens and Russell Wilson connection going forward against, easier matchups than the Jets. I wasn't expecting this. So to see him have
game one against a hard team.
So I know George Pickens is excited to have Russell Wilson there. He even leaked the news about him starting. So definitely trending upward.
Yeah, they said the camp was. It's hard to say sometimes. I feel like I heard that the media said that they were all on Justin Fields in the receiver room. But how could you say that? I mean, if I was Pickens, you for sure want Russ back there. It's not even.
There's no chance that George Pickens was in on Fields. I think the fact that he leaked that news about how excited he was to have Russell Wilson there pretty much spells that out. And who knows, maybe in training camp he was excited for Justin Fields, and then the first 6 weeks of the season happened. So
that first pass came, and he was like, nope.
And as a player on these teams, sometimes they just got to say things because that's the starting quarterback at the time. Not because they actually believe it, but they got to say it for the media and everybody else, and that could have been something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, how about the next topic, guys? How about this is the every week we got to talk about the Dolphins, but here we are again. Tua's back.
Yeah, I think Tua's back, and as somebody who has a share of Tyreek Hill in Dynasty League, Waddle in a home league that I don't know why I care about so much, but I do. I'm very excited, assuming he is back, because the offense is right back where it was. I don't understand why the coach, McDaniel, can't figure it out without Tua. I don't think Tua is some amazing super talent. But clearly, he is the straw that stirs the Kool Aid, as they say. Um, I wouldn't be shy at all to move Tyreek Hill right back into wide receiver one territory. Jalen Waddle right back into wide receiver two territory. I would be aggressive with all of them. I mean, the time to buy them is gone. Um, and, those guys were terrible. No denying it. But I think I'm very optimistic to say, like, we're just going to hit the rewind button right back to week one and see the Dolphins come out. And Arizona, I don't think is a very difficult matchup. So I'm expecting a good week.
Yeah, it's not just two of this back; it's literally that entire offense. A-Chain as well.
Yeah, you guys have already said it, but I don't think Mike McDaniels puts himself in this situation next year. If Tua finds a way to stay healthy, I bet you they have arguably probably the best backup quarterback going into the season next year, because that offense is non-existent with the backups that they currently have. So with Tua's conditions, I bet you they put themselves with a better backup quarterback next year.
Yeah, that's a good point, Eric, because how could Joe Flacco only get a contract from the Colts? What with Tua's history? Miami have a good team. What are you doing? So yes, I agree. Next year they're not going to let Dennis.
I think it's a reminder as to how difficult the quarterback position is to play. Like, I think a lot of people just say, "Oh, you have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon A-Chain. How could you not be good?" But there's confident starters and there's not that many confident starters. So I think it's just a reminder that not anyone can do it.
Yep.
I mean, I played quarterback before. I'm no Marcus. Sometimes you need that real starter back there. You can't just come in and I can
You
come
either
in
have
there.
it or you don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jason, he'll chuck it right at your shins. 100
I don't
miles
get
an
picked
hour.
off. Yeah, I don't get picked
It
off.
is tough to intercept Jason, that's sure.
Yeah, I don't get picked off, but boy, I don't throw touchdowns either. But what do you guys think? We finally on my fantasy, on my dynasty league, I got both the backups on the Browns, so I wouldn't say happy about Deshaun Watson probably season, possibly career-ending injury, but I am excited to see Winston. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think Winston. This is what should have happened a month ago. Winston, at least for fantasy purposes, that's the quarterback you want. You want the guy pushing the ball downfield, making plays. There's a pick six, great. Go right back out and do it all over again, buddy. I don't want my defense out there and I have players on the offense. So this is great. We saw with David Njoku, him getting a bunch of targets. I think this is great for him. With Cooper gone, he could be the leading wide receiver. There's upside with Cedric Tillman. The whole offense. Not saying this offense is going to magically become like a top 10 offense or anything like that, but if you had players on this team, you have Chubb, this is what you want to see, because the offense wasn't doing anything with Watson and he was killing all the fantasy players.
Yeah, I think it really was a sunk cost fallacy for the Browns, where they gave up so much to get Deshaun Watson, they just didn't want to bench him, even though I think it's pretty obvious that this should have happened a while ago. And I am excited to see what some of these pass catchers can do with a guy who likes to sling it like Jameis Winston. And more on that later when we get to best bets.
Yeah, Jameis Winston is definitely the quarterback that will push the ball down the field. There could be some, maybe multiple interceptions, but that means you just get the ball back and you do it again. But I do think it's kind of bad to wish injuries upon people. I do think it's the last time we probably see Deshaun Watson. He was not playing well, but they were paying him so much money they couldn't take him out. They needed an injury to take him out. Deshaun wasn't having fun out there. The offense was not good. They just got rid of their best receiver. It was all through the tight end, and there was no running game, and now Nick Chubb's back. I kind of think this is still going to be maybe a bottom half offense, but Winston definitely picks up the pace a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
I definitely agree.
Think...
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, seeing Watson again, I don't know the exact legalities of how Cleveland can get out of his contract. I know he's facing maybe some more allegations. I do think Watson will be a backup somewhere. Just to our point of our last topic, there's only a couple of guys who are competent. I know he isn't good, but he can at least play backup quarterback. So I do think Watson will be a backup somewhere, unless his image from another allegation completely kills it. But barring some type of year suspension or just banned from the league, my bet would be he would be a backup somewhere.
I
I
actually
don't.
don't think he's going to be a backup. And it's
You think he's
because of the
done,
image thing.
Zach?
I think he's totally done, because if you are an NFL team and you want to sign Deshaun Watson as a backup, you're going to get all sorts of backlash for that. And it's just not worth it to sign a backup
Well,
quarterback to have all that come along with it. We've seen guys like, Colin Kaepernick, he was probably good enough to be a backup. But if you sign Colin Kaepernick, you have to get all that media attention coming with him. Same with like Tim Tebow. So guys who bring a bunch of unwanted attention,
well, what about
or just
Kareem Hunt?
attention in
He had a,
general, just isn't worth it for a backup.
what about Kareem Hunt? He was under a lot of. What did he do again? I mean, everyone's always doing something, but him
It was
especially.
domestic
I
violence
forgot.
of some sort.
Yeah, see,
Um,
but
Yeah,
see, it's all
but
so Deshaun
no-
Watson could just
well,
go to the Chiefs and nobody would
no,
care.
he's nowhere on the level of Deshaun Watson. I don't think the Browns wanted him, but the trade was already done. They were already paying him so much money they had to start him. I do not think he finds another job. I think we've seen his last step.
All right, fine. Point around the horn, right? Is that point? Is that right? Something there? Ding. All right. Can the Jets pull it together? I put this one on here, guys. I'm just thinking maybe Rodgers needs a little bit more time. But what do we think? Can they really do it? They're 2-5 now. Ooh, plus 5,500 to win the Super Bowl. They're gonna have to win a lot of games.
I mean,
I would say, go ahead, Eric.
Aaron Rodgers typically starts slow. He started slow many times and bounced back from things like this. They got the players. They just got to put it together and make a team out of it and get the right chemistry going on. But we've seen Aaron Rodgers have really slow starts, and somehow he turns it on to the middle, and they just win out, and keep winning. So I think they'll be around later on in the year as well.
Yeah,
I would
relax,
say,
right?
RELAX, relax. I think I would be shocked. I don't know what the
Relax.
betting is. They might be plus money to make the playoffs. Might not be, but I'll
No,
check that.
they are. They are. I think they're plus 135. Let me see. I'll pull it up.
Yeah, I would hit that. Like, you Jets are going to make the playoffs. The AFC is not that strong for those last few spots. I don't know if they'll win the Super Bowl, but
They have a good defense. They have great receivers. They have a great running back.
Guys.
plus 185.
Plus 185
Yeah, like,
for the playoffs is pretty good. I mean,
I think
last time I checked the standings, I believe the Colts are currently holding a wild card. I definitely take the Jets over the Colts.
yeah, I think that is definitely a bet that I'm probably going to be making here after the show, just because that's insane to me. I'll have to maybe take a look at their schedule. I did think they'd win the division. It does seem like that might be over now. I think they're 3 games behind, and it's not even Halloween.
Oh, they're not winning the
And
division. That's over.
with the loss already, yeah. But I do think they can make the playoffs. And who says Aaron Rodgers can't go into trying to think here who's going to be like a 4 seed in the AFC? I'm not going to stall on it, but 4 or 5 or 3 seed in the AFC, Rodgers can go in there and do it. The only place I probably think he wouldn't be able to go into, or at least think he would do it, is Kansas City. Any other team, give me, Rodgers can definitely do it. So,
I mean, so my thing is,
it's only October.
The only thing that they're not doing, there's only one thing the Jets are not doing, and it's winning. That's the only thing they're not doing. I feel like their defense is there. I mean, I guess they're getting gouged by the run up the middle, so that too. But Hassan Reddick comes back. I just think we could possibly I just pull it up. We are over here anyway, so screwed. We got the playoff picture. I mean, if Houston's the 4, if they can get into one of these spots over, I mean, obviously they just lost to Pittsburgh, but I mean, I think they really blew that game. I mean, they got beat by a bunch, but they could have won the game. They had control. But the Colts and the Chargers, come on. If Anthony Richardson's playing quarterback, right?
So the Colts, Chargers, Broncos are all, I think, right, we just saw they're currently in the wild card spots. Like, wouldn't shock me if all 3 of them fell out. You got the Bengals, you got the Jets. Those are 2 teams I would definitely expect to come back and to make the playoffs. Outside of Kansas City, nobody's unbeatable. Maybe that 3 seed will be a little tougher than I thought, but if the Jets, they easily have time to come back, be that 5 seed, and Stroud looked pretty bad against Green Bay, so that'd be a real fun game, Jets Texans and wild card. But definitely plus 185. That's a very good value bet in my opinion to bet on Rodgers.
Any final thoughts, guys, before we move on?
Yeah, just if you just look at that offense, too much talent for them to be 2-5. They're going to turn around.
Eric, any more points? I'll
I
give you a
agree.
point. I'll give you a ding if you want it. You want a ding?
No, I mean it's well said. They have so much talent on offense and defense that this is not where they should be. They should be winning more games than where they're at. And I think now they got Devontae Adams, they're going to have a week of practice, get their chemistry down, and come out and start winning some games.
Hell yeah, brother. How about this new piece of nugget right here? Oh my gosh, the Chiefs picked up another receiver that didn't go to Ball State. We're trending in the right direction, fellas.
Yeah,
Picked up a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
Yeah.
I don't know that Hopkins is really that good anymore, but he's better than Juju Smith-Schuster, I think. So, and definitely better than a injured Juju Smith-Schuster. So I like the move. They need somebody to throw to over the middle to run those routes. And I think Hopkins fills in well. It's not going to make a huge difference, I don't think, but definitely an improvement.
From a fantasy perspective, we were just saying in the group chat over the weekend, you had a question about Juju in fantasy, and I was like, well, Juju's the new Rice. Doesn't matter how talented you are, you're just going to get those targets. Well, now that's Hopkins, and Hopkins is more talented than Juju. So from a fantasy perspective, if you had Hopkins, good for you if you hurried up and went and picked him up. And he was available, I think, in 3 of the 7 Yahoo leagues I'm on. I think he's definitely got fantasy relevance. From a real football perspective, I don't know how much it moves the needle for the Chiefs. They definitely needed to do something, I think. I don't know how long they could have kept getting away with what they're doing and winning games, blowing out San Francisco on the road. San Francisco was missing weapons, and that's something they probably didn't game plan for. Give them some time to game plan for, it probably looked different. But from a fantasy perspective, this is good for Hopkins. Potentially good for Mahomes, but I don't think they're going to let Mahomes cook. Maybe Mahomes doesn't want to cook this year.
What I would have liked to seen from the Chiefs is them trade for somebody who would have made a bigger difference for Mahomes, because I really don't think this is going to change much.
Who should
Mahomes,
they have gone after? Naylor?
One guy in the headlines right now is Cooper Kupp. I think he would.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp would be a very good one.
Hopkins, especially running those routes over the middle that Rashee Rice was running at the beginning of the season, complimenting Xavier Worthy down the field. I think that would be a really good fit.
Yeah, I will say I am really happy for DeAndre Hopkins because he's been on some bad teams. He was on the Texans when they weren't good. He went to Arizona when they're not good. He went to the Tennessee Titans. Now he's going to go to a team and win a Super Bowl. So I feel really happy for the guy. You guys, I do think he will probably catch a couple touchdowns. I think he will catch some balls. He knows how to play receiver. He was at one point arguably maybe the best receiver in the NFL. Now, that was some time back. He's definitely a little older now. But we could see some chemistry between him and Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes need receivers to throw the ball to. And now he's got one that's caught a lot of touchdowns, caught a lot of balls, has a lot of experience. So I think it's good to bring something like that. Has he lost a step? Maybe, but hopefully he's still got just enough to pull off another Super Bowl with him.
Now, has Mahomes also lost a step, or is it just Hopkins, or is Mahomes losing a step too?
I'll let Zach go on that since he's got a Mahomes share in an important league. But
well, I think no better time than now to talk about the power rankings. Chiefs lead the power rankings. Does Mahomes have what it takes to stay there? I'll give it to you, Zach Strickland.
Well, I don't know how you couldn't have the Chiefs as the number 1 team in the NFL right now. I mean, they haven't lost yet, for one. They're the only team that hasn't lost, coming off 2 Super Bowls. Like, how could you possibly rank any team ahead of them? So, of course,
the Detroit Lions.
Yeah,
the Detroit Lions.
Well,
this is why I have the Chiefs number 1.
The Detroit Lions didn't win the Super Bowl last year.
The Detroit Lions look really good right now.
Hey, the future is now, old man.
Yeah, the Chiefs are 6-0, look impressive. They can run the ball and play defense. They have the best real life quarterback, and they don't even need him. Like anybody could be back there right now doing what Mahomes is doing. He's not having Mahomes magic.
Okay, now anybody?
Could
Snoop
Watson
Huntley?
do it?
Well,
Sure.
okay.
Could
I'll
Will
take that
Levis?
back a little bit. But no, it's just to me the Chiefs. I don't know if they're toying with people. They're not taking the regular season seriously again, like they did last year. But it's the Lions look impressive, but at the same time, like they were down 10-0 to the Vikings very early on.
It's
So
a
I think
division
they're all
game,
right
though.
there.
Division game. It's always tough.
Yeah. True. I'm just gonna say if I'm crowning one team, I'm taking the easy way out of the Chiefs just because they're 6-0. They've looked impressive, and Mahomes hasn't done anything. Be slightly different if they haven't looked great and Mahomes is just bailing them out constantly. But you would assume Mahomes is going to show up eventually and give them that extra gear. Maybe he waits until the playoffs when he needs it,
I
which
mean,
is
I think
bad
it's
for
kind of like
fantasy.
Aaron Rodgers. I think it's kind of like
Okay,
Aaron
so you
Rodgers
guys.
from. What's that,
Go
Jason?
ahead, Zach. No, go ahead.
It reminds me a lot of Aaron Rodgers from like several years ago with Green Bay, where at one point Aaron Rodgers was not only like the best quarterback in real life, but he's the best fantasy quarterback. And then they just decided to let like all his weapons leave, and they wouldn't spend draft picks on weapons, which I know is not exactly what the Chiefs are doing. But then they would just use all their cap room and stuff to build up the defense, and then use the defense to be good enough to let the best quarterback in the league
Sure.
win the game. I think that's kind of what the Chiefs are doing right now.
So you and Marcus are on the Chiefs. Eric, you're on the Lions.
Well,
Right?
I mean, I'm gonna take the Chiefs over the Lions just because they're
Oh,
the team
come
I picked
on.
to win
You
the Super
psyched this
Bowl.
all out.
But you want a team that I think can give them a run for the money. It's the Detroit Lions. They can run the ball. They can pass the ball. Goff's been playing so well. He only needs to throw the ball 19, 20 times a game with the highest efficiency you can throw. They don't even have to look to throw the ball with large volume. The running game's great. As long as David Montgomery doesn't tweak an ankle or something there, this team, I mean, they look
Well,
really good.
they're always on track. That's the thing about the Lions. They're always on track. You never see Goff back there hitting 3rd and 16s. Like that's not a regular occurrence. Where you see that happen to Lamar and he's toast. You see Lamar back there on 3rd and 16, it's over basically.
Speaking of Lamar, the Ravens are my number 2 team just because the offense looks so great. Their defense is not very good right now, so it'd be really interesting to see the Chiefs Ravens play a rematch right now with how good the offense is, and to see can you push the Chiefs? Can the Chiefs actually win a shootout? It's crazy to say that. Used to be a no brainer.
Well, the thing is, if they're in a close game with the Ravens are going to be running the rock. I would be scared to be playing the Ravens in a December game with Derrick Henry with 25 carries. I mean, if he does that, that's running over DBs, that's going to hurt. I wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah, I agree. Ravens number 2.
Yeah, I think so.
But do you guys know who the number 1 team is in point differential this season?
It would be the Washington Commanders.
Bears.
It would be the Washington Commanders.
Oh,
the number two seed in the NFC right now.
I should have known you were foreshadowing with that sweater on today, Zach.
There's no reason not to have Washington. There's no reason not to have Washington, I think, in the top 5 discussion for sure.
All right.
I think that they're right there. We'll see if they can keep doing it.
But who are you going to take out, Marcus? Quarterback. Who are you guys taking out of here? You're taking out the Bills or the Vikings? Is that what you're doing?
Putting me on the.
Are the Vikings the leading team in point differential? No.
This isn't like a top 5 movies. You have to have top 5. You can't have 1,000 movies.
You can only have 5 in the top 5. That's right.
I think give me Washington over the Bills. The Vikings have looked really good on defense.
Washington.
I'm not ready to trust the Vikings yet. I don't trust the Vikings. I don't trust Sam Darnold. I'm just going to say it.
I heard a rumor that the Vikings could be trading Darnold.
Trading Darnold?
Really?
That's what I heard. I heard a rumor they were. I mean, it was deep Reddit, but it was like they were
deep Reddit. A lot of truth going on in deep Reddit.
They were interested in Stafford. I was like, whoa, okay, Stafford.
That would be interesting. Yeah. I mean, if the Rams decide to punt, that could be a move.
Anyways, guys, it's been just a tremendous discussion over the top 5 power rankings, but we need to get into the Thursday best bets. Vikings this week are -3, plus 100, over 48.5. And the money line -146 against the Rams. I don't know, guys. There's a lot to think about here, but I want to hear these best bets. We'll go to Eric first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take Cooper Kupp. He's back in business. He's healthy. And if they're going to put him out there, I don't think they're going to limit his role. They're going to feed him like they always fed him. He should hit his over every time in catches. The only game he didn't, he got injured. And he got catches right away until he got injured. The volume was there. So I think they put him back into the starting lineup. He gets his catches. His over-under is 6.5 catches. I can definitely see 7 catches or more, maybe in the first half. This is an easy bet at -130. That's the bet I'm going to take for the best bet of the week on Thursday.
Hell yeah, brother.Moving on. Marcus, what you got?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be a little bit going off of Cup, but also adding in Jefferson and getting a two-man parlay there at +112. The Rams are not good in the secondary. There's no surprise there. I expect Jefferson to easily get over 60 yards. And then going back with what Eric said, assuming Kupp is fully healthy, I 100% agree that he is going to get fed. That's what he does with Stafford when they're out there. So I don't see really any issues with Kupp not getting to 60 yards unless one of two things happens. What we see sometimes on these primetime island games is something stupid happens and a team's all of a sudden up 20 points in the first half and kills all the props. Or there's a punt return, kick return, something stupid, pick six. Or Kupp really isn't as healthy as they say. Rushed him. I don't say they rush him back, but just something where Kupp isn't healthy and he leaves again in the first half. Besides that, this is to me an easy plus money lock.
Hell yeah, brother. I freaking love that parlay. Zach, what you got?
So first of all, I agree with the Cup takes. Just in going back to is he healthy or is he going to be limited? I think this is a showcase game. I don't think they would put him back out here not at 100% because if they want to trade him, they're going to want him to have a big game and really showcase that he's still 100%. So definitely on board with the Cup bets. As for my best bet, well, let me just say I misunderstood the assignment because I don't have a Thursday night best bet, but I do have one that I really like on Sunday, and you can get this one at plus 500. Cedric Tillman to have over 70 receiving yards. Amari Cooper is traded to the Bills. That opens up targets and usage for Cedric Tillman. 82% of the snaps, had 12 targets, 8 catches, 81 yards last week. And I really like the move to Jameis Winston at quarterback. I think that can only help that offense. And since you're getting it at plus 500, you only need this bet to hit like 1 out of every 6 times to break even. If you think there's at least a 17% chance that Cedric Tillman gets 70 plus receiving yards, and he did it last week, this is a positive expected value bet. Definitely one of my favorites on the board this weekend.
Zach, where did you find the bet at? Because it almost sounds too good to be true.
This is a DraftKings bet.
I love the bet, Zach. I love the bet. He could do it in one play.
I agree. I don't know about one play, but game script wise, they should be trailing, and the Ravens secondary is not very good.
Yeah, it's not what it used to be. I mean, Marlon Humphrey's a pretty good corner. I don't know if that's
he might miss time. They know he had an injury.
I mean, so
Cedric Tillman's probably the number 1 or number 2 option on that team right now in the passing game.
Well, the thing is, but didn't he get a lot of those yards though? I don't know if anyone actually knows this, but I just asked. Didn't he get some of those yards from DTR? Thompson Robinson? Wasn't he
definitely some of it. A lot of it was. I think it was a mix of all 3 quarterbacks because the Mari Cooper, trade is what opened the door up for Tillman. So he was the guy when Deshaun Watson started the game. He was the guy when DTR was in the middle, and then when Jameis and Winston came back in. I don't know the exact splits, but it seemed like he was consistently getting targeted throughout. That's not something I'm really concerned about. I think
all right, guys,
Winston helps in the most of those 3.
I know, because I'm hoping we're going to get some Tampa Bay Winston. I don't want to date myself too much, but I had an opportunity to draft Trevor Lawrence, and I traded the pick for Winston and another pick. So it's actually turned out to be not too bad because Trevor Lawrence isn't what I thought he was going to be. But I've been holding on to Winston for a while, and we're waiting for Tampa Bay Winston to be back, okay? I'm excited. This is going to be good. I want to throw something on you. I just got a text, okay, guys, not from anyone's father that I know of. But what do we like this week from the fans of the show? Caleb Williams or Goff? I pulled it up in case anyone's wondering. We got Goff playing the Titans and Caleb Williams versus the Commanders.
I would take golf at home, just because Washington, like Zach said, point differential, they're crushing people. So I think there's a chance that Bears get crushed. I mean, I expect it to be a good game, but if we're talking just straight up who's going to be a better fantasy performer, I'd rather start golf at home. Titans have a little bit of a good secondary, I guess, but it's close now. I'm talking about thinking it out loud.
It is tough. I didn't know what to say either.
Because Titans do
I
have a
think
good secondary.
I'm going to take Caleb Williams on that because the Lions are so good, they're probably just going to be running the clock out. They won't even need to pass the ball. That's what we've seen when they get some of these victories. They don't even need to pass the ball. So Caleb Williams, if they're losing, they're going to be throwing the ball. And that's one of the only ways they move the ball unless Swift hits a big run. They hit short little dink and dunk down the field, or they hit their receiver. So I'm taking Caleb Williams all day of those two options.
I think Caleb Williams has more upside. We've seen the Washington defense struggle. Week 1 against the Tampa Bay Bucks. Baker Mayfield absolutely went bonkers. But then again, he's kind of done that every week. But then if you look at some of the other games more recently, the Commanders' defense hasn't been that bad. They pretty much shut down Carolina last week. They played the Cardinals pretty well a couple weeks ago too. So it hasn't been quite as bad as we've been used to it being the last like couple seasons. Definitely think there's upside for that defense to be bad. There's upside for Caleb Williams, but with Jared Goff, you get a Titans team that's not very good. So if Jared Goff goes out and struggles at the beginning of the game, they're going to get the ball right back because the Tennessee offense isn't going to do anything. So he's going to keep getting opportunities until they eventually put points on the board. So I think Goff has a higher floor. Maybe he doesn't have that shootout potential that maybe the Bears and Commanders maybe has. I also think the Bears might call some plays to get Caleb touchdowns. Going up against potentially Jaden Daniels, hopefully. So that could be an element. So upside Caleb Williams, but I think floor I'm definitely rolling with Goff.
Yeah, I think you're right, Zach. I think it's a total situational thing. Like if you think you're gonna lose badly because you're playing a good team, maybe you roll the dice with Williams. Another question coming in from the millions of fans we have. This one's from Matt Bennett, 6969. Josh Downs. What do we think this week, guys? I know we already heard the AR talk, so it sounds like he says in the message, every time I bench him, he explodes. My guess is those are probably Joe Flacco weeks.
Yeah, 100%. And if we move on to the crystal ball bust of the week, it is my entire Colts receiving core. I don't want any part of that. I just advocated for Anthony Richardson and Dynasty, but not this week. Not any of his receivers. I'm not advocating for them at all. Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, Adonai Mitchell. I want nothing to do with them. All 4 of the tight ends that have to fight for the 2 targets they might get. I don't want any part of that. Anthony Richardson and quarterback in the offense, that's not a traditional offense. That's someone that's going to pound the rock over and over and over, and they're going to have, less than 20 pass attempts. And half of them won't even be catchable. So that's not somebody you want anything to do in the receiving core. Typically, when I can pick the under on players, and if they get injured, I don't wish for an injury, but if they get injured, you win the bet. Unfortunately, with this particular bet, if there is an injury and that injury is to Anthony Richardson, someone who gets injured often, and Joe Flacco comes in, now it's a completely different story. The whole offense opens up. Josh Downs is a play. All the receivers are going to get their catches. They're going to get their yards. But with Anthony Richardson at quarterback, I don't want any part.
Yeah, I was looking at the ESPN wide receiver
no.
rankings best ball, my
You're
crystal
back, Zach.
ball
I think it
and,
was
and
kind of
crystal ball
glitching, but
bust.
you're back.
Yeah, I guess if you didn't catch it, I was looking at ESPN rankings. I saw Michael Pittman ranked 41st at wide receiver, which is crazy to think about. But then I'm like, yeah, that's pretty optimistic, to be honest, because Colts with Anthony Richardson back there, you can't trust any of them. Agree 100%. So moving on to my bust of the week, I'm going to go with a guy who has had 90 plus rushing yards in 4 of the last 5 games and has had double-digit fantasy points based on Yahoo scoring every single game that Andy Dalton has started. Unfortunately, Andy Dalton will not be starting the game on Sunday, and he's yet to have double-digit points in the games Bryce Young's starting. And on top of all that, they are playing against the Denver Broncos. This is a bench all your Panthers situation. And if by some miracle you can go get Denver Broncos defense, they're going to have a great weekend.
Yeah,
Hell
for
yeah,
me, it's
brother.
going to be. Yeah, for me, it's going to be the inconsistent Marvin Harrison Jr. I think it's two different things. One, from a matchup perspective, he might be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey. That's never a good thing. Like I've mentioned before, Miami has a good pass defense. I think they're the giving up the least amount of fantasy points to offenses in general, at least through passing wide receivers. And the second thing is Kyler Murray can't handle throwing the ball deep down the field, which is primarily where a lot of Marvin Harrison's routes are. On Monday night, another example where Marvin Harrison burned the secondary on a slightly broken play. Instead of looking downfield and throwing it, Kyler's more worried about looking at where he can scramble 50 yards horizontally before making a play. So for me, if you have Marvin Harrison, he's a flex play, and if you have some guys with some better upside matchups, do not be afraid to bench him. We've seen what his floor is, and I expect more of the same this week against Miami. Harrison's kind of unfortunately becoming more of a matchup based play, and even then with Kyler, it's getting hard to trust.
One player that Marvin Harrison kind of reminds me of is George Pickens. I really think I think the profile is similar, and I think you just need to give Marvin a chance because he can catch everything. Just throw it down towards his
Yeah,
way and let him make a play.
Kyler's one of the lowest ADOTs in the league. He just doesn't throw it deep. I don't know. It's just not a match. You switch Neighbors and Harrison roles, and I feel like Harrison would be easily the best rookie wide receiver, and everyone would be saying, "What's wrong with Neighbors?" A lot of it is environment, and Kyler doesn't give those opportunities. He did
So I
maybe a
guess
few
they
years ago. Doesn't throw it deep anymore.
Well,
Yeah,
I think it's easier to manufacture touches to neighbors.
Yeah.
Probably
Moving
true.
on to the
Oh,
crystal
hey,
ball.
hey! One last thing. I want to do a little ad here. Hey, a little ad from the host. One of the hosts. Man,
What
I
do you
even
want to
lost
advertise? What are you showing off here?
it.
What do you
Concrete
got for
Indie.
us?
Get
What
some
do you got for
concrete.
us?
Well, I was gonna
Yeah.
say it was too stupid. I was really, you know how like you say the joke and you're like, well, if I have to say it again at this point, it won't be. I was gonna say, well, maybe Arizona should trade for Russell Wilson, but then I was like, all right, we've missed the moment, and now when I say it, it's gonna sound stupid, and it does sound. It actually sounds stupider than I thought, but like I should have just rolled
You
with.
can't
I should
not
have just
say it
rolled with
now.
her. I know I
All
did. So
right, moving on to the crystal ball picks of the week. I have Josh Palmer as a receiver that I am willing to put in my flex spot this week. He looks like he might be the only option at receiver. Lad McConkey, Quentin Johnson, both questionable, leaning towards they won't be playing. So Josh Palmer will be the number one. Justin
quit
Herbert
typing,
is an
Marcus.
upper
We
tier
hear it
quarterback.
all.
Jeez, Marcus.
You heard that. It wasn't that loud,
Just
but I was loud enough where like we should say to stop the typing.
Justin Herbert has been playing well. Josh Palmer, he's going to look his way a little more often than he normally does. I think this will be a week where he sees more targets in probably the most amount of targets he's had all year. Don't get me wrong, this is clearly a J.K. Dobbins game because the Saints are 28th against the running back position, and J.K. Dobbins will get force-fed the ball. They will pass it to him. They will run it with him. But guess what? It's a team sport. They got to give the ball to somebody else, and Josh Palmer will be that other look. If it's not Kamani Vidal, but Kamani Vidal is still young. So I've got Josh Palmer in my flex spot this week.
My concern with Josh Palmer is that he just might not be good, but I do like his opportunity. I kind of wish I would have went with Trey Fulmer here for a nice fluid transition because I think he could be good with the injuries that the Bucks have at wide receiver. But I didn't. I went with Javonte Williams. So
Oh, yeah, sorry.
we're actually talking about. Okay, sorry about that.
I got you. I threw everything off. See, ever since I made that
Well,
stupid
no,
joke.
it's my fault. I was after Eric on the bus, so I assumed I was after Eric on the basketball.
No,
Anyway,
it's my fault. You're
Javonte
good.
Williams is my pick. If you look at the Carolina Panthers defense, they are getting just destroyed every single week. Bryant and Robinson with the Commanders last week only had 71 yards and a touchdown, but that was on 12 carries. The game was such a big blowout. They didn't need to use him more than that. Go back 2 weeks ago with the Falcons, Bijan and Tyler Algier combined for 200 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift, remember, we have to grade him on a curve because he doesn't usually do anything, had 71 yards and a touchdown against the Panthers. And then Chase Brown, 80 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Panthers. So that's 7 touchdowns the last 4 weeks. So they are just getting destroyed on the ground. This Denver Broncos defense is going to shut down the Panthers. Best case scenario for the Carolina Panthers is this is a grinded out game. And the Broncos are going to go out and they're going to play ball control offense, run the ball, and play defense. Lots of opportunities for Javonte, and he's been playing pretty well the last few weeks. So I think 100 yards and a touchdown, maybe 2, is pretty reasonable for Javonte.
Yeah, and we saw a little bit of a sneak preview with mine, but it's going to be David Njoku. Like I mentioned earlier, Winston is a upgrade major for him, and the matchup's great. Ravens are one of the worst teams against the tight end, giving up at least or almost 10 fantasy points in 5 of their 7 games this year. Njoku might have been on waivers for a lot of other people. I know he was kind of a borderline pick at the start of the year, and I think now it's going to be the time for him to maybe do a little bit of what he did at the end of last year. Has tight end overall number 1 upside this week, in my opinion. We saw on Monday night, K. Dotton got fed a lot by Baker because he was wide open all the time. I think the Browns are going to be losing, needing to throw, and David Njoku is going to be looked at a lot and has a lot of will have a lot of red zone and zone targets, all of that to produce a great tight end fantasy week.
Yeah, I love the pick of David Njoku. I think he's probably the number 1 option on that team. But I don't know if he's gonna get a lot of red zone looks, because I don't know if they're gonna get in the red zone much, because that team, I just don't think they got all the pieces.
Hey, take it easy. Winston, okay. This is Tampa Bay Winston here. This ain't your average Winston. I'm on it. Njoku. He's my big ball pick with Marcus.
Love it.
Sorry, it's getting weird, but guys, what a show. We've been we've been off air for way too long. So it's good to be back. Remember, everybody, any closing words before we sign us off? Eric, you sign us off. You can sign us off. You're the TikTok star.
Oh, thanks everyone joining us on Pocket Vision. We're going to be on here every Wednesday. Join us 9 o'clock. Look for that live to drop. Follow us there. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. We're everywhere. It really means a lot if just to get one of those follows. So appreciate you guys. Thank you. Peace.
What? Oh.